Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Friday and welcome to Fairytale Fridays. This week we're going to look at Cinderella. No childhood is complete without hearing the story of Cinderella. It has been told and retold for centuries, and variations of the tale abound to the point where it's pretty ambiguous about what the original version actually was. But the basic outline of the story is that Cinderella's father died after he remarried a woman who had two daughters. After his death, the stepmother began mistreating Cinderella, making her a servant in her own home, and encouraged her daughters to also abuse Cinderella. After all the girls are grown, there's an announcement made throughout the land that the king and queen are hosting a ball with a view to the prince finding a wife, and all eligible maidens are invited to attend. Naturally, the stepmother determines that her daughters will go, and through one means or another, Cinderella is prevented from attending this ball. With a bit of magical assistance, Cinderella does make it to the ball, hits it off with the prince, but then has to dash away at midnight, leaving a glass slipper behind her. A search is made, and of course, only Cinderella's foot fits the shoe. Out of all the maidens in the kingdom, it was only her. Then she and the prince marry, living happily ever after, with different variations about what happens to the stepmother and the stepsisters. So, first and foremost, this story is a lesson in hardship. Cinderella went from being a cherished daughter to an unwanted burden the moment her father stopped breathing. She was relegated as only having value insofar as she had the ability to perform chores that other people didn't feel like doing themselves. The circumstances of our lives are a lot more fragile than what we're consciously aware of, at least usually. You take away a few of our support beams, or sometimes even just one, and we can find ourselves in a drastically different situation. This could be the loss of a loved one in death, as in the story, or a job, or the end of a relationship, a major health problem, or a spiritual crisis. At such times, our whole world can shatter, just as Cinderella's did after her father's death. Things will never be the same, and in addition to grieving, we also have to adapt. We may not be in a good situation for, a while, maybe quite a while, and it requires strength of character to endure that. Cinderella's escape from hardship involved the helping hands of other people. Once presented with opportunities, she seized them. And it is true that these were not opportunities that she could create for herself. A servant girl can't just decide that she's going to get an invitation to the palace for a royal ball, let alone that she'll just have a fairy godmother appear who will help her get dolled up for the occasion. And even after getting to the ball, Cinderella might have just met the prince without either of them making an impression on the other, had a dance, and that could have been that. There were external factors that were well outside the realm of her control. And sometimes our own lives feel that way, and actually are that way. So the true test of our mettle is how we respond when possibilities do open up. Do we make the most of them, or do we let them slip through our fingers? Clearly, Cinderella took the opportunity to have new experiences in life and to enjoy things when she was able to. She didn't cling to depression or use her hardship as an excuse, and that sets a good example for us. That brings me next to the glass slipper, which I think is a very interesting symbol in this story. Because all the prince knew is that the young lady he was enamored with had a foot that fit into that slipper. And I really read this as a sign of where Cinderella could find belonging in life, which is a turning point in her life. And if we look at the feminine hero's journey, it is about finding belonging, which makes perfect sense because women are the traditional guardians and promoters of cultural identity, the formation of community, and the heart of the family structure. It is everything about belonging. That is what our instincts are built for. And Cinderella finding belonging with the prince, well, that's less about a man coming to her rescue, even though he did, and props to him for doing it because it was a very masculine thing to do. But it's really more about Cinderella finding her role in life in which she can have a healthy way to devote her energies and her best qualities and her work ethic. Instead of, being this glue that holds together a false and abusive family, she can instead play a part in creating the future of the country and be respected and valued for that. And now, because the slipper is made of glass, it emphasizes that belonging is a delicate thing. Cinderella's world was shattered when her father died. If she hadn't been reunited with the prince and the future he could offer her, that would have shattered her hopes in many ways, and it would have been just another obstacle in her trying to fulfill her purpose and find her belonging. So having our place in the world is always going to be a fragile thing. But that fragility is not something to fear, because even if worst comes to worst, we can adapt and we can survive. It isn't a reason for us to close off our hearts or to pretend that the people who mistreat us are the only people that exist in the world. There are always unexpected bends in the road, and it can radically change our lives for the better if we haven't turned our back on hope and if we haven't embraced despair as a lifestyle. So those are my thoughts on Cinderella. Let me know what direction your thoughts took you with this fairy tale. I'd be very interested to hear and discuss that with you. Tell me all about it in the comments section below, or go to the description box and click on the link to our Gilded server. It's called Blackbird's Brew. We have several channels that are very good for discussions about, storytelling and fairy tales and myths and analyzing the meaning of it all. I would love to geek out with you, so I hope you will come and join us soon. But until next time, that'll be it for now, and bye-bye.